Alright, this will be an overview and test of the General Electric 821401. It's like my 10th time trying to record this, but anyway, here it is. It looks like just your classic rectangular GE, but if I flip it around, you'll see that this actually has the brown base. That is right, that is because this is an early version. Now you might already know that I have one of these 82141s, which is right here. And obviously this one has the white base. Now I'm not 100% sure on the reason why they had two different colors for the base, but my current guess is that these ones were meant to be installed on wood paneling, as at the time these were being made, the wood grain smoke alarm phase was at its peak. Sears had wood grain alarms, First Alert had wood grain alarms, BRK I'm pretty sure had some wood grain alarms. Really, a lot of companies were making wood grain alarms. But now I'm not really too sure on why they didn't make the cover brown, but you know, I guess that's just what they went with. Anyway, so if I flip it around, you can see this one has that chrome sticker, which I really like. It shows you that it contains radioactive material, americium-241 2 microcuries. And then here's the issue number, 7667. So this is actually a pretty late one. And if I open it up, which this cover tab sadly is broken, that is how I got it, but it's not that big of a deal. And I flip this over, which hopefully you can see it. Just doesn't look like you can. But there is a date code of this on this that dates this one as being from 1981. So this is a very late brown base. In fact, I've seen white base versions of these as early as 1979. So that's a little bit confusing. And here's the model. It is in fact an 82141. And they did make 82141Cs with brown bases that are a lot more common to see. And those ones, I'm not too sure what the difference is. I'll have to get one of those at some point. I'm sure there's some differences in the circuitry. But yep, this one has a brown trumpet horn. They molded it in brown plastic. It's got your triple slot sensor. It's got your sensitivity adjustment, and it's got some other circuitry, stuff like that. And I can compare it to my other 82141, which of course now the sun's in the way of it. But you can see there are quite a few differences. This one has a little sticker over the sensitivity adjustment, whereas this one has wax. It also doesn't have as many of these things on it. I'm not too sure what those are. And then this one has a little metal cap covering that. Looks like another sensitivity adjustment. Not entirely sure though what it is. And here's the model on this one. Once again, this is 100% an 82141. The labels are a little bit different. And if I close the covers, you can see on the front, this one is actually a little bit better quality. You can see the lettering is a lot more smooth, I guess, whereas this one's like sticks out a lot more. And then if I flip it around, you'll see that this one has no labeling on the back. And actually the issue number is on the side on this one, which I think is strange. Don't know why they changed that. And then I also have an SMK 6/M1, which is one of their later ones, and you can see the plastic got a lot cheaper. And the molding for it isn't as good either. But this one, if I flip it around, you'll see returned back to putting the labels on the back of it. So don't know why they took them off for a while, but who knows. And if I open it up, you'll see that it's much different. This one has the plastic triple slot sensor, and this one actually has a different style of trumpet horn. This one's actually the one that they used. In fact, I actually think they used them all the way up until around 2020, from what I've been told. So this one was used for a lot longer. This was used on the Black & Deckers, of course. And yeah, you'll see there's actually a lot more circuitry on this one's board than there is on this one's. So I'm not too sure on why that is. And this one also doesn't have a sensitivity adjustment. So. And then I also have the Home and Away as well, which this one actually uses the same molding as this one. Oh, well, actually, I think the logo on this one's a slight bit smaller, but this one's really good plastic. Actually, it's better than this one is actually. But yeah, this is their travel alarm. I actually have 2 of these at the moment, and this one specifically is pretty rare since it has the black plastic triple slot sensor. But they did make versions of these with the metal triple slot sensor, which I am on the hunt for. You can see this one actually shares a lot of similarities. Of course, this one has the plug. Now, I'm not sure if these were ever made early enough to have brown bases, but that would really be cool if they did. So that's something I will be looking out for. If I flip it around, you'll see that there's labeling on the back here. Of course, this one has instructions, and it also has this little bracket to hook it onto a door. And this one here, I forgot to say the date. This one here is from 1982, so just a year after this. So they really weren't using that triple slot sensor very long on these. And then this one here, if I remember correctly, is from 84. Yeah, 84. And then the other 82141, I believe, is from 82. Either 81 or 82. The first digit's kind of rubbed off on this one, sadly. And then, of course, they had the 82141Cs, which had brown bases, and then had white base versions. And those ones are pretty much, from what I'm aware of, pretty much identical to the 82141s, except for some slight differences, and likely slight differences on the circuit board as well. And they had an SMK6, which was pretty much just an SMK6/M1, but labeled SMK6. And those had the plastic sensors. And then they also had an SMK6/M2, which was the last GE model that I know of. And that was pretty much just a Black & Decker. In fact, the earliest Black & Decker SMK6D/M1s actually used that exact same circuitry as the SMK6/M2s. They kept the same button mechanism, kind of like what's on here. Before they switched to that cheaper mechanism that pushed, that had like a little rod that came up here, then pushed down onto the sensor. I should have got my Black & Decker out, but for some reason I didn't. Anyway, I'm going to put a battery in this, and I'll give it a test, and then after that I'll show my entire GE lineup like I usually do. So I'll be right back. Alright, I got a battery in it, so let's give it a test. Yep, as you heard, it does that classic GE warble tone, which I really like. And this is the fastest one I have. Of course, if you've watched my other 82141 video, then you'll know that that one sadly doesn't work. But I would assume it sounds either exactly like this or it's probably a little bit slower, one of the two. And then the SMK6 slash M1 has a slower pulsating sound. And the Black & Deckers, when they switched over to those, they slowed those ones down a lot. So yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to get this unplugged and then we'll get into the GE's timeline. Alright, so GE's first model was the 8201001, released in 1975. And this is what that would look like. Or this is one of those, actually. And this one is 12.6 volt with a red battery flag. Now this one's actually from 76, so it has the Edwards horn, but the ones from 75 would actually have a delta alarm, and those are very, very rare. You can see it has a mechanism here that kicks out the battery flag, and it's got that multi-hole sensor. And then at the same time these were made, they made the 8202-001, which was the 120 volt AC version. And this one is actually this one's actually from 75, so this one has the delta alarm. This is the same horn the earlier ones of those would have used. And of course it has the multi-hole sensor, it's got a transformer, it's got a plug. I do have the other end of the harness. And it's got this little cover interlock switch, kind of like how the Honeywells had. And then in 1976, a year after, they came out with the 8203-001, which was their 120 volt line cord model. I'm not gonna open this up. It's identical to this, except it has the Edwards and it has a cover over the transformer, and obviously it has a wire that runs out of the side here. So yeah, and these were never made with delta alarms. And then after this, well, there is a model missing actually. There's an 8204, and that at the moment we don't know of any of those existing. But my guess is it's a line cord version of this, which is the 8205-001, which is another 120 volt, except this one actually has interconnect. And this is one of the reasons that tells me there's a line cord version of this, because this little hole on the side here, which is on the same side as that cord. But anyway, if I open this up, you'll see that it's by far the most unique American GE model, because they did make Canadian ones that I'll get into. This one has a Kobishi CLB27. It uses the triple slot sensor. Of course, it has a transformer. This one actually has a sensitivity adjustment under this cap. And they did utilize the cover interlock switch, which is good. You can see that little hole there. And yeah, and this one doesn't have a harness, which is kind of weird. But yeah, and they started making these, my current guess is they started making these in around 1977. Either that or 78, one of the two. And then after that one, they had the 8201-101, which was pretty much this, except it had a white battery flag. It had the it didn't have the triple slot sensor. It had the multi-hole sensor. And it removed that little cover, or that little battery flag system. And I don't have one of those yet, but yeah. And then almost immediately after that, and I'm not entirely sure when those fell in line, because it had the older sensor, but it was it came out after this model, like this model timeline, because it moved into the 101s, and this one came out and replaced it. This is the 8201-201. And this one has the white battery flag, same one that the 8201-101 would have used. except this one, as you can see, was cheapened a lot, and it uses actually the 82101 circuitry. And this one here specifically is from 1977. I believe this is the that's the earliest these were made, I believe. And then after that, of course, they had the 821-301s, which are by far GE's most common singular model. And this literally is just an 821-201, but it uses a 9-volt. This one has 2 sensitivity caps. And these were made, I'm pretty sure, as early as, I want to say 77, just because date code on the 78 ones are actually pretty high. So, and then after these, they had a really unique version. And that was the model 821-301A, which is literally just an 821-301, but the box had it labeled as 821-301A. But really nothing's different in it. Just the date. This is just, it's a really late date. Specifically 1979. I believe so, at least. Yeah, 1979. Couldn't remember. And then of course they came out with, actually in 1978 is when they came out with these, the brown base ones. And of course I already went through pretty much all the history on these earlier in the video. So, and that's all of my, well, it's not all of my GEs. I have 2 other ones, but they're just duplicates. But that's pretty much all of, but that is all of the GE models I currently have. So, yeah. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and I'll do the outro. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.